section 2.1, transformations of quadratic functions. But before we do that, I want to make sure that you guys know your algebra skills of multiplying two binomials together. If you would like practice on this or review, you go to IXL, Algebra 1, it is Z8. That we learned from chapter 1. This is a quadratic function. I know it doesn't look like your normal function. This is in a new form that we're going to learn today called vertex form. But let's just use what we already know. Okay, so this transformation here at the end, this is telling you that this function is going to down. And this one right here, it's on the inside, remember, so it's going to be horizontal. And remember, it's going to be the opposite. So this is going to go 2 to the right. Okay, so you know that this function, this is one point that you know where the function is going to lie on our graph. Okay, so we're going to do some old-fashioned graphing here with the t-chart. So let's start with this. From the parent function, which starts here at 0, 0, this graph is going to go 2 down, 1, 2, and 2 to the right. So instead of just picking some random numbers, this gives us a place to start. So that means, oops, I think I put it at 1, sorry. So it's going to go 2 down and 2 to the right. All right, so that means my starting point, and I'm going to put it here in the middle, is going to be 2, right, and -2. Now, once we have this starting point, you're going to pick 2 points above it and 2 points below it for a total of 5 points to make it a very clear parabola. Okay, so that means I'm going to pick 0 and 1, and then I'm going to pick 3 and 4. Okay, so let's do our math here, and we can do our mental math, but I'll write out one of them. So I'm going to plug in 1. So 1 minus 2, quantity squared, minus 2. And 1 minus 1 is -1. -1, quantity squared is 1. 1 minus 2 is -1. So we have -1. So y is really the g of x function. I wanted to make sure you guys knew that. So now let's plug in 3. 3 minus 2, quantity squared, minus 2. 3 minus 2 is 1 squared minus 2. 1 minus 2 is, again, -1. Perfect. Now let's do 0. I'll just do this one out loud. 0 minus 2 is -2. -2 squared is 4. 4 minus 2 is 2. Now let's do 4. 4 minus 2 is 2. 2 squared is 4. 4 minus 2 is 2. Great. So now we can plot this. So we'll start with 1. So 1, -1. And then 3, -1. And then I have 0, 2, which is right here. And then I have 4, 2. And now, hopefully you can see it better. I have this nice, smooth parabola. Please forgive my drawing. And there I have it. Now, of course, we can check on our calculator. We'll do that in class. So we need to be very familiar with this form of a quadratic function. I think that you guys are all pretty familiar from Algebra 1 for the quadratic function to look like this, ax squared plus bx plus c. And now we're going to look at it in something called vertex form. So I want you to copy it down. Pause the video if you need to. G of x is a parentheses x minus h, close parentheses, squared plus k. Now let's remember a few things. Okay, let's look at the h. The h was the horizontal translation, remember? So, and then the k was a vertical translation. Well, here's a huge clue. H and k are really, it's really your vertex. So that's always going to be your starting point when you want to graph it. Now, A if you remember, that is going to be your shrink or your stretch. So once you get familiar with this, when you start looking at equations in this form, it'll make a whole lot of sense to you. A minute to talk about the core concepts, which I think you guys are already familiar with. So remember, horizontal translations, it's happening here on the inside. Those are the horizontal translations. And remember, it's always the opposite. I think of it as what number do you need to make this thing 0. Vertical translations are up and down, and that's on the outside. Okay, remember when it's positive it moves up, and when it's negative it goes down. I'm going to fast forward here to the other core concept, which is reflections. Again, a review. So when it's a reflection on the outside of the function, the entire function, it's over the x-axis. And if it's a reflection of just the x on the inside, that's over the y-axis. And the horizontal shrink and stretch is my a factor. So if it's on the inside, like that, it's horizontal. And remember, it's the horizontal one is going to be the reciprocal. And the vertical stretch is here on the outside. It's the entire function here that you multiply by that factor. All the way to Monitoring Progress 8. It's on page 51 in your book if you want to follow along. So we're going to translate these words into a new rule for our new function, g of x. So let the graph of g be a translation 4 units to the left followed by a horizontal shrink by a factor of 1/3. Okay, so here's my function, f of x. So you need to do it in order. Make sure you do it in order. So 4 units to the left. So remember, this was our original x. Now, since we're doing 4 units to the left, my x, my original x, is now going to be replaced with x plus 4. So let's write our new function here. So I'm going to write g of x equals. Now remember, anytime you replace x, we're going to put parentheses around it. So this is the same function. Pretend that there's just an x for the f of x. Now we're going to place it with the first rule, which says translation 4 units to the left. So instead of x, I'm going to write x plus 4 inside here. And then I'm going to write x plus 4 inside here. Good. So I finished that part. Done. Now it's a horizontal shrink. Again, horizontal. So now here's my x. Horizontal shrink of a factor of 1/3, which means it needs the reciprocal, so it's now going to be 3x. So wherever I see x, which is right here, it's going to be 3x. Now, this is not the answer that's in the back of the book. The answer in the back of the book is that you have to simplify this and multiply it all out. So you can leave it like this, but eventually I'm going to want you to multiply it out. So let's just do that really quickly. I'll do it the slow method so that you can see. Hopefully you're at a point where you could just do this one in your head. So 3x times 3x is 9x squared. 3x times 4 is 12x. 4 times 3x is 12x. 4 times 4 is 16. So this is now 9x squared plus 24x plus 16. Now that's just this first part. Now we have to simplify and add the rest of it. Plus 3x plus 4. So now we're going to collect like terms. So it's going to be 9x squared plus 27x plus 20. And that is going to be your final answer. Now I think I'm going to say that I definitely want you to multiply it out. That's why I wanted you to review your Algebra 1 skills on IXL if you need to.